Hello friend, Muddy Promise is my name. Welcome to biology class. The theme of the lesson for today is organism and its environment. And our topic is relevance of biology to agricultural practices. In this lesson, we shall be discussing on food production. Let us take our learning objectives as we begin the lesson. By the end of the lesson, you should be able to explain the meaning of crop production. Next, you should be able to identify factors affecting crop production. Also, you should be able to state ways of improving the production of crops. And finally, you should be able to explain some causes of food wastage. Food is one of the basic necessities of life. It is produced in agriculture through the cultivation of crops and rearing of animals. Generally, crops serve as the main source of food people eat. The demand of crops that serve as food has increased around the world. This is because of the increasing population of humans. To ensure that the food produced serve the growing population of humans, different methods of improvement in farming needs to be applied during crop production. So let us look at crop production. Before we look at crop production, let us look at the meaning of agriculture. Agriculture is simply defined as the cultivation of crops and the rearing of animals for the benefit of man. The cultivation of crops in the definition refers to food production. So what is food production? Food production deals with the cultivation of crops for food and other purposes. It is a branch of agriculture. Some crops cultivated serve as food for humans, feeds for animals, while other crops may be used as raw materials in producing products such as clothing, bags, etc. Examples of food cultivated are legumes, cereals, oils, tubers, etc. There are many factors in the environment that affect crop production. These factors influence the growth and development of crops. For farmers to produce more crops, they need to look at these factors and seek for ways to properly address them. Let us look at the factors that affect crop production. The factors in the environment that influence crop production are divided into abiotic factors and biotic factors. Let us look at abiotic factors. Abiotic factors are non-living parts of the environment that affect living things. They include climatic factors and edaphic factors. So what are climatic factors? Climatic factors are elements of weather. These factors affect the availability of water and energy required at the different stages of development in plants. They include rainfall. This is a typical image of rainfall and it is needed for the growth of plants. Temperature, which is the degree of hotness or coldness of a place, and it is important for the germination of seed. Wind, which is air in motion and carries carbon dioxide, which is used for photosynthesis in plants. Sunshine, this is a typical image of sunshine. It carries radiant energy used for photosynthesis in plants, and relative humidity, which is the amount of water in air at a particular time, and this is a typical image of relative humidity. It affects the rate at which water evaporates in plants. The next abiotic factor we'll be talking about is known as edaphic factors. Edaphic factors are the physical, chemical, and biological composition of the soil. They include soil pH, which is a measure of the amount of acidity or alkalinity of a soil. It is measured with the pH meter and read from the pH scale. This is a typical image of the pH scale. 7 is being neutral, from 6.9 down to 0 is acidic, while from 7.1 down to 14 is alkaline. The optimum pH required for the growth of plants is between 5.5 to 7.5. And the last edaphic factor we'll be talking about is soil structure, which is the arrangement of particles of a soil. The soil structure determines the amount of water available for plants in a soil. We have talked about abiotic factors. Let us look at the biotic factors that affect crop production. Biotic factors are living factors that influence the growth and development of plants. They include soil microorganisms. A typical example is the earthworm, and the activities of earthworm help to increase soil fertility. Other biotic factors include pests. This is a typical image of pests. They damage crop and reduce crop productivity. We also have parasites. They transmit diseases to plants and reduce plant productivity. Also, diseases affect crop production and lead to death of most crops, which reduces their productivity. And lastly, weeds are plants that compete for nutrients with crops. This also reduces crop productivity. Despite abiotic and biotic factors that affect crop production, farmers daily apply different methods to increase their yield. Let us look at methods of increasing crop yield. There are so many methods used to increase crop yield. Some of these methods include addition of fertilizers and manures, application of pesticides, use of improved breed seedlings, and mechanization. We are going to discuss each of these methods briefly. The addition of fertilizers and manures help to replace lost nutrients in soil and maintain soil fertility. These additions help to increase crop yield. However, excessive usage of fertilizers destroys soil structure, damages crop, leads to soil acidity, etc. This is a typical image of farmers applying fertilizers to their crop. The next method of improving crop yield that we are going to be discussing about is application of pesticides and protective chemicals. Pesticides and protective chemicals are added to agricultural land to control pests that damage crops and parasites that spread disease. This application control pests and parasites and help to increase agricultural yield. This is a typical image of a man applying pesticide to a farm. The application of this pesticide helps to control pests that cause damage to crops. Now, let us go on to look at another method of improving crop production, which is known as the use of improved breed seedlings. Improved breed seedlings are plant varieties with superior qualities. The qualities these plants variety possess over other plants include having better resistance to pests and diseases. The use of these improved seedlings bring about a high yield of produce within a short time. And also, improved breed seedlings produce crops with high nutritive content. So we can see with the use of improved breed seedlings, crop production is greatly improved. Let us look at the last method of increasing agricultural yield, which is known as mechanization. Mechanization is the use of machines to carry out farm operations. Machines make work faster and easier. With the use of these machines, crop yield is greatly improved. Some examples of machines used for mechanization are tractor. This is a typical image of a tractor used in pulling farm implements. Plow. This is a typical image of a plow used to till the soil and break the soil into pieces. Harrower. It is used after plowing the soil, and this is a typical image of harrower to break the soil particle into tiny pieces. Ridger, planter, etc. With the use of these different methods, farmers produce crops which are used as food. However, food not properly managed lead to food wastage. Let us look at food wastage. Like I earlier said, these different methods help farmers to improve crop yield. However, the yield not properly managed leads to food wastage. So what is food wastage? Food wastage refers to any food material suitable for consumption that is left to spoil, is thrown away, or allowed to undergo some form of damage. Food wastage results to a reduction in the quantity of food available for consumption, and this eventually leads to food shortage. Let us look at the causes of food wastage. Some of the causes of food wastage include poor storage facilities, pests, diseases, inadequate transport facilities, natural disaster, inadequate processing facilities, late harvesting, and bush burning. Briefly, let us look at each of these causes. When storage facilities are not enough or are made of inferior quality, food produce, especially perishables, will eventually spoil, and this could lead to food wastage. This is a typical image showing perishables that may eventually spoil when storage facilities are not enough. The next cause of food wastage we are going to be discussing is known as pests. Pests cause damage to agricultural produce, and the point where they damage this produce may serve as a point by which microorganisms that cause food spoilage may enter these crops, and this may eventually lead to food wastage. This is a typical image of pests feeding on a food product. The spots where they feed on may serve as a point where microorganisms can enter the food product and cause spoilage. Crops sometimes are affected by diseases. These diseases reduces the quality of these crops and eventually cause some of them to die. This can lead to food wastage. Another cause of food wastage is inadequate transport facilities. Inadequate transport facilities delay the movement of goods from where they are produced, especially in rural areas, to where they'll be sold in the market. Such a delay can lead to spoilage of food and eventually lead to food wastage. This is a typical image showing a road that is bad, and it is difficult for this farmer to transport his food to where it will be sold. The next cause of food wastage we are going to be looking at is inadequate processing facilities. When processing facilities are not enough or are inadequate, fresh and perishable goods which are not readily consumed can get spoiled, and this can lead to food wastage. Also, late harvesting is another cause of food wastage. Most crops are wasted when they are not harvested at the appropriate time. Such a delay may cause food spoilage by pests, disease, rainfall, etc. The next cause of food wastage we are going to be looking at is bush burning. Indiscriminate setting ablaze of farmland cause crops which are cultivated to be destroyed, and this can lead to food wastage. And the last cause of food wastage we are going to be looking at in this class is natural disasters. The occurrence of natural disasters may lead to the destruction of crops in large quantity. Some examples of these natural disasters include floods. This is a typical image of a farmland submerged in water as a result of flood, drought. This is a typical image showing a farmland that has experienced drought, which is insufficient rainfall, tsunamis, hurricanes, etc. Having said all these, we have come to the end of today's lesson. But before we go, let us take a look at what we have learned so far in a summary. In summary, we learned that crop production deals with the cultivation of crops. We also learned that abiotic and biotic factors are the two major factors that influence crop production. Next, we learned that some methods of increasing agricultural yield include addition of fertilizers and manures, application of pesticides, the use of improved breed seedlings, and mechanization. We also learned that food wastage refers to any food material suitable for consumption that is left to spoil, is thrown away, or allowed to undergo damage. And finally, we learned that some causes of food wastage are poor storage facilities, pests, inadequate processing facilities, natural disasters, etc. Now, let's test ourselves to know how well we have learned so far with some questions. Crop production helps to dash for the people. A. Protect wildlife. B. Provide food. C. Safeguard agricultural land. Or D. Reduce food wastage. The correct answer is B. Provide food. Next, food wastage can be as a result of dash. A. Adequate processing facilities. B. Improved method of storage. C. Poor harvest. Or D. Damage caused by pests. The correct answer is D. Damage caused by pests. This will be all for this lesson. I believe you now know the meaning of crop production. You can state the factors that affect crop production. You can also define food wastage and list some causes of food wastage. Thank you for watching. See you in our next class. Bye-bye for now.